the policymakers and the decision makers are fewer than the beneficiaries, whether negatively or positively, of these policies.
Yeah, the reality is that people are saying loud and clear that instead of dealing with these cosmetic changes, you had the other man talking about the roads that are not, motorable roads with all the potholes and all that. Why is the central bank and governor not concentrating on the fundamentals that will begin to change the economy, so that instead of even having the 1,000 naira that note, you may begin to have the 500 naira notes being more robust and doing a lot more things, and that's the reality on ground. So if the CBN governor does not have any program on ground, it's an indictment to those people at the top level policy making, that look, you are not connecting to the grassroots. And the reality is that ever since the introduction of SAP, the structural adjustment program, you started having this kind of very interesting price gyration. I remember during our NYC days, it was 200 naira during my own NYC, I think 1982, when they said with the 200 naira you could actually come down to level, buy a beautiful shirt for 10 naira, you can buy a beautiful shoe for 50 naira, and you still have surplus balance.
Exactly.
And down in the university days, we could buy, the other time I had a full tank on my Jeep, and it was about 7,000 naira. And I was telling them, I said, I could buy, with that 7,000 naira, I could buy a Peugeot 505 in those days. Right. So what is it telling you? It's telling you that the economy had stagnated, or had even gone down to the tubes, so to say. So the reality is not whether or not you're going to introduce 5,000 today. The reality is that who is touching the fundamental questions that will turn the national economy, the aggregate economy, for the greater good of the common one, and no answer had been provided yet.
But
yes, drawing from what he has just said, the final say there has to be with the people, because we are talking about people. Governance is all about people. So whatever policies that the government is churning out ought to reflect directly or indirectly to the good of the people. Having said that, I think your question has legal implications in terms of who has the final say. Because as it is presently, the National Assembly has, the Senate as it were, has called the CBN to order, asking them to stop the proposal until they have come to them for legislative approval. Now that raises a lot of questions because of the arrogance of the CBN and its management board. I think the CBN is exuding such arrogance that it has arrogated so much power to itself, forgetting that we are running a democracy that has both vertical and horizontal separation of powers with its attendant checks and balances. So even if it's an executive act, there is also a role for the legislature in the entire scenario. And I want to refer us to Section 18 of the CBN Act that has actually given the president the power to approve new denominations as it were. But that Section 18, having given the president that power, is also subject to the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended, in which Section 88 of that 1999 Constitution has made it clear that the National Assembly has powers to investigate anything that borders on financial, fiscal, monetary affairs. If you permit me, I can read it, but if not, for time purposes, just let it be noted that the National Assembly has powers to investigate matters for which they have powers to legislate upon. So they legislated upon CBN Act. They made CBN Act. Between now and 2013, nothing stops them from going back to the House and bringing out a new law that will make CBN governor come back to them before changing the currencies. So the fact has to be the point has to be made that the National Assembly has powers, unadulterated powers to call the CBN to order. And I am urging the National Assembly to intervene and call the CBN to order. Let them come to the National Assembly and explain to them, if possible, let it be subject to public debate. Let all those who know what is going on come out, speak about it, and put it to the referendum. Let the people speak and let the CBN be bound by what the people have spoken. It's not about pushing down something you think is good for me. You are not the one to define my interest for me. I am the one to determine what my interest is.
Very interesting indeed, but of course that will be a novelty, because I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of this country where the financial powers that be have ever sought the consent or the advice or the approval of the common man before redenominating.
That is the arrogance of power we are talking about. In civilized clime, before such very fundamental changes are made in the economy or monetary policies, you find that they go back to the people and ask them and explain to them what these policies are and get their mandate. And when it is being done, it is the people that are doing it, because they are representing us there for our interest.
Do they even have these constituency offices to represent your interests?
I just wonder.
The leadership of the nation's body of lawyers has also threatened to go to court. The former Nigerian Bar Association's president, Mr. Joseph Daudu, actually voiced out this threat on the day he was swearing in his successor. Let's hear what he had to say about that matter.
If the CBN persists in its reckless plan to negatively alter the face of Nigerian economy, the NBA will go to court to seek redress. Rather than distract Nigerians from the pressing national dilemma of insecurity and corruption, government should invest the billions that will be expended on this unnecessary currency manipulation, on revamping the security apparatus, and on strong and effective anti-corruption battles.
Well, Alhaji Liman, you are not a lawyer. But then I would like to ask you this. I mean, if you feel so aggrieved by a policy like this, would you seek legal redress in court?
Well, first of all, the most important message that is coming out from the Bar Association is that there are key issues that are priorities, and that's one of the interventions that I earlier on made, that are pressing, that are of urgent need for the grassroots, for the development process in this country, than bringing in cosmetic issues about currency manipulation. Those were the submission that I had made. The reality is that a lot at the level of the leadership, whether you're talking about the executive or whether you're talking about the legislative arm, are taking away close to about 80% of the wealth of the nation in terms of salaries and pockets, into their pocket salaries and allowances for their special assistants themselves and all that. And this is just less than 1% of the population. If this issue is not addressed, and addressed as urgently as possible, and I would like to crave the indulgence of asking His Excellency, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Jonathan Goodluck, to intervene. That, look, there is a lot of rot in this economy, and it cannot continue going on this way. If you look at the logistic segment, the transport segment, subsidy crisis, lack of mass transit, we don't have the waterway system working, we don't have the shipping arm of the nation working, we are not having the refining capacity like my colleague has rightly said. And these all dovetail to what happens to your currency, which is a reflection of what the economy is. The currency is nothing but what your politics is saying, what your security app is saying, what your economy is saying, and what is also happening to the larger aggregate economy. So if the currency is growing from 1,000 naira to 5,000, and you have had predictions by some of the experts, economic experts, saying it's likely in the next 5 years it's going to be 10,000 naira. Then somebody has to say, look, I'm the Commander-in-Chief, I'm the Chief Executive of the nation, Nigerian nation, and I want to stop this so that I begin to make a redress. And if that is not done, we'll, like the other speakers have said, tomorrow you'll wake up to find out that because the fundamentals have not been handled, you will start seeing 20 naira no denomination. And again, larger chunk of the economy is being tangential, is being enclave, is being bypassed. So what are you going to have? Eventually you're now going to have social vices, the issues of Boko Haram, the issues about insecurity and all that, all because over the years, bigger chunk of the population is being marginalized.